Alright everyone, this is a video that many people have asked for and I've promised that I'd do one. So here we are. This video will be over breeding viper boas, and we'll go into what I've done with feeding viper boa babies. I will say this isn't the only way to do it. If you find another way, I'm sure it works. What I have found is they are not difficult to breed. When I'm about to give like all of my steps, however, I haven't found that they're difficult to breed. You introduce the male to the female, they know what to do. You know, it's it's not too complicated, but we'll go over it. So right now I'm showing off one of my viper boas. She's actually gravid. I'm expecting babies any day now. So yeah, we will see. If you can see, she does not have a hide anymore. One of the things I do, based on past deliveries, is I remove the hide so babies don't get squished, so there's more room. But I do add leaf litter in there. This is not only to enrich the mom a little bit, but also gives the babies something to rub up against to help get the like slime egg sac. I don't know if I'd want to call it egg sacs. I haven't actually seen them in it, but help remove any gunk off of them, because otherwise it's very smooth in there. So I put some in the back, have some up here, and then they also have the bowl to rub against. But yeah, so let's get into it. So this will be from my 2023 litter. Alright, so on December 5th, let me say, these dates that I use, you do not need to follow these dates exactly, but you can use them to determine what dates work best for you. So what I would suggest is going on Google, searching when's the coldest day, of your year, whether that's January something like for me, or it's August something for you. Whatever that coldest day is, start a month before. That's what I do. So my coldest day is roughly January 15th, 24th, something like that. So I start in December with preparing. So leading up to December, I feed heavily, in the sense that not feeding them to where they die because you overfeed them, but feed them so they put some weight on them, because they're going to go a couple months without eating, and females might actually go their entire gestation without eating. So keep that in mind. If you don't have a healthy looking female, I wouldn't pair them up, because they might not eat while pregnant, which could result in being very underweight after giving birth. They do have a very slow metabolism, so I would not be too concerned with, if they don't eat. Just know that when they're done giving birth, it's paramount. That's probably not the right word. It's critical to go ahead and get them eating again so they can get that weight back on. Their gestation's about 10 months, 9 to 10 months. That being said, that's a long time. Basically, you're going to skip every other year of breeding. So if you breed this year, then next year they're going to give birth. So you need to spend that entire next 12 months getting them back up to weight before next season. So they only really should be breeding once every other year. Alright, so let's start with what I do. So in 2023, December 5th, I lowered the rack temperature here. I have it set to a herpstat, and the probe in the back. This is AP, CB70 enclosure. So AP CB70. I use Vision 70 tubs, so they're smooth on the bottom. Alright, anyways, lowered the temperature to 77.5 for day temp and 68.0 for night temp on December 5th. I then introduced the male to the female, not the other way around. Always put the male in with the female. On January 24th, raised the temperature to 79.5 and 76 for the night. So 79.5 during day. That same day, January 24th, I removed the male. So now they're separated for a couple days. I introduced the male back January 27th. Remember, this is roughly the coldest time of my month, but I raised the temperature up because I plan on feeding them. So then on February 1st, I removed the male, fed both of them. Now, keep in mind, this is February 1st, so at this point, they've went 2 months without eating. Because the last feed was 2 months, or excuse me, 2 weeks prior to me introducing them. So, that said, on February 19th, I add the male back. That's approximately 2-ish weeks, one feeding cycle, because I normally feed on the 1st and 15th of every month. I introduced the male back, and then within that same day, like within an hour, I came back and checked. I had a confirmed lock with one of my pairs. So that was a pretty good introduction there. On March 13th, I had another confirmed lock. On March 15th, I removed the males. November 16th, I had 15 babies, all live from one viper boa, 0 stillborns, 0 slugs. And then December 23rd, on midday, I had another litter, 10 live, 7 stillborn, 0 slugs from the other viper boa. So that's basically the process I follow of feeding them up until December. Then I introduce them early December, basically have them hang out for a couple months. I can't remember because I didn't write down if they had locks or not. I think the lock for me on the February 19th was just because it was so quick that I wrote it down. But they're hanging out. They're always together. They do pretty good. But then, like I said, so January 24th, removed the male. January 27th, add the male back. February 1st, remove the male, fed both. Then add the male back on February 19th, and then remove the male March 15th. Then had babies November 16th and December 23rd. So that was for 2023. In 2021, I didn't write down all the notes on introductions and all that, but basically following the same process. But I did write down how many litter I had. So the litter was born, or not how many I had, but when they were born. So on 2021, the litters were born December 13th and December 15th, so much closer together, but there was about a month difference in 2023. And like I said, for her, she's been pretty accurate about having them mid-December, so I'm expecting them any day now from her this year. And this will be her 3rd litter with me. All right, so now that we talked about breeding, that's the most of the questions I get is breeding, so like I said, I introduce them, they do their thing. You'll see them hanging out together in the water bowl, and that's about it. Next is they have the litter. So after they have the litter, this is where still figuring it out, right? I don't have a perfect solution yet. Out of all of those babies I've said I had, I still have 2 from 2023. I did have 3, but one actually passed away when I moved from my old house to my new house. And then I have 2 from 2023. And yeah, and then one died on the move here. And then I have 2 from 2021. So out of what's that? Close to 50-ish babies, I have 4 that survived. 5 really, but because the one was doing well, it was just the transition move kind of hurt it, so that's not great results. So this is why I don't really suggest listening to me for this part, but I can tell you what I did and you can decide what works for you, what doesn't. So anyways, I moved them from there. Excuse the mess, this is a bag of leaves for leaf litter. I move them in these tubs. You can see some of them have cocoa fiber. So this is all dry right now, but when they're born, I would moisten this up. And then I have some that I put paper in, kind of like how the mom setup is. And then I've also done it with just dirt before. This one's cleaned out. But I move them in here, and basically this is where they're at, is in one of these small tubs. I don't remember the size. I don't think it's, let's see. Doesn't have a size on it. It's Iris tub, but this is the AP 330 rack here on top. I've kept my 2023s in here until this year, so about 2 years old, and then I moved them. I'll show them in a second. But what I do is try different things to see what works. So far, it hasn't had a guaranteed success if they're on fiber or dirt or this. I've also done mulch. I don't have like, hey, this is the right way, because the ones that survived didn't have any unique, like they all survived on mulch, right? There was no correlation to substrate. Then for feedings, and this is where I think it's the hardest part. If you have baby tadpole frogs, maybe you'll have great success, but that's a lot of extra breeding just to breed them. I don't know too many people that do, but that, or like little house gecko babies, they might do well in that because they're about the size of my finger when they're born. Here, let me switch back over to this. It's better to look at a snake while talking. Who is out? You're over there hidden. I don't want to. Let's try again. There we go. All right. So this way you'll have something to look at. This is one of my 2021 babies. What was I saying? Oh, so feeding. I've tried minnows. The ones that eat, right? Didn't matter. Like, so this one here ate minnows. I didn't try minnows with the litter from 2023 because it just didn't work really. It didn't change anything for the 2021 litter. So some ate, some didn't. Pinkies scenting. I've used gecko scent, lizard scent, like a knoll lizard, sorry. Fish scent, tuna, like the tuna juice, using that because I read on a Reddit that was something someone used, or not Reddit, one of the blogs. Anyways, let's see. I've also tried reptilinks, which these guys will eat reptilinks that are survived, but like the ones that didn't, like nothing was working for them. So it's kind of hit or miss on what I would suggest is, try it all. I would say start with the easiest, which is get some scent. Like from, what is it, Reptilink, they sell bottles of scent you can keep in your freezer, and they last as long as you have the material, right? Kept frozen, just thawed out, use a couple drops on the pinky, put back, and done. So that's how I would do it. I this year learned to wash my mice before, like for some of my other boas. So I'm going to try that. But I think with pinkies, because they're so small, I don't think washing the scent off of them from the rodent facility is going to work very well because they're very thin skinned, but we'll see. But you could try that. And then scenting. The little minnows, some took, some didn't. One thing to keep in mind is when you're feeding live, like minnows and live pinkies, which I've also tried live pinkies, it made no difference if it was alive or dead in regards to the viper boa taking it. But using live, you got to keep in mind you have parasites, and chances are you're going to be breeding wild caught viper boas, which have parasites. I'd highly recommend treating the parents before you ever do any breeding, treating them, getting them taken care of, and having them stable for a while. That way there's less likelihood that parasites will be introduced to the babies. Frequent changes, so if you notice I keep them on paper, you can change paper out frequently to help reduce parasite loads as well in the wild caughts. If you keep them in bioactive substrate, those parasites just go right back into the substrate and reinfect. So wouldn't recommend that until you've cleared out the parasites from wild caughts. Captive horns, that's why they're so much more, better, is they're normally already eating. They don't have the same issues that wild caughts have. But back on the subject, the only thing I would not recommend for feedings is a pinky pump. Last year, 2023, I did a pinky pump for one litter, and it had a 100% fatality rate. Now, the pinky pump themselves didn't kill them. It's just they never took on eating. They, it never really did good, and I think it stressed them out more than anything, so they just gave up on life. So if you have one, throw that sucker out. It is horrible. Do not recommend it for viper boas. One of the things I plan on trying this year, like I said, I'm still trying to figure this out. So besides washing the pinky and doing that, using a mouse tail. So I used rat tails to get some of my Australian python babies to eat, and that worked really well. So I'm going to try to scent a mouse tail. Remember, these guys are very tiny when they are born, so it would have to be a mouse tail. It could not be a rat tail. And I don't think it matters as much as getting the substance as much as getting them to eat. So, like, if I can get them to eat mouse tails, right, they eat a couple of those, get them into that, then I would try to upgrade them to pinkies so they'd get a little bit more substance. And then what I did with my babies once they start eating was taking those very tiny reptilinks and letting them munch on them. So the material they use for the reptilinks, it's not like the baby small reptilinks. It's not very hard, so it doesn't actually allow them to swallow it whole because they're so fast and striking that it actually squishes it. But they'll eat, whatever they can in their mouth, which is good for getting some nutrients in them. So that's what I did with a couple of these guys, and that, like I said, they eat reptilinks now, but they also are on frozen rodents. So yeah, can't think of anything else off the top of my head in regards to this. If you have experience, put it in the comments on what worked for you for raising the litters. When I have this next litter and I try some new things out, we'll see. What I'm really curious about is getting my viper boa captive horns up to breeding age and size. That way I can see if the captive borns are any easier, right? I maybe Gen 2, Gen 3 might get easier to feed them just right off the bat. We'll see. I don't have too high of hopes, but, here's to hoping or wishing. But yeah, if you have any questions, leave them in the comments. What I'll do is I'll gather up a few of the questions over the next month or so and then create another video answering the questions that I have answers to, or say, hey, I don't know. There's not much information about these guys out online. I do put a care sheet on my website of them, of how I care for them, and it's worked amazing for caring for the ones that eat. But as far as breeding and caring for neonates, I think that's how it's pronounced, but the babies, it's not as much information. So yeah, let's come together and figure this one out. All right, thanks for watching, y'all. Oh, and if you're still watching at this point, like and subscribe. Thanks. All right, later.